I'm so thrilled to be here today with one of the most exciting organisations and somebody who's been involved in a lot of exciting work over the last, well, maybe 20 years or so, John. Um, I'll let you introduce yourself, but what I'd like to do is just welcome firstly yourself and Chanel. Let everybody know what's going to be happening on the call today. So we're going to be starting out with John explaining what CANTeam is. Chanel's going to explain how she became involved in CANTeam and the work that she's doing now. It involves lots of different people, schools, students, communities. And so John's got a little kind of package from the students to talk about how it feels for them and what it means. We'll be exploring the aha moment that led to the CANTeam coming into being. And we'll be talking about the future. What does the future hold for these type of initiatives and where's it going next? We'll hold a breakout room at about 11:40 where you can, in groups, digest some of the information that you've been given, but also hopefully discuss with some of the people who are running CANTeam, how did they do it? What have the challenges been and so on, and perhaps come up with any questions that you might have for John and Chanel and or any observations that you have that you can then feed back to the group afterwards. Um, so this is going to be an interactive session. Do get involved, enjoy it. John's got some amazing content to share with you, and let's get going. So John, can I hand straight over to you to explain to people who you are and what you've been doing?
Yeah, no, thank you, Heather, and just yeah, delighted to be here, and thanks for the opportunity to share. I mean, the Citizen Collective is just an amazing community that just really inspires me. So it's just amazing to be able to share, and I've joined some of these spotlights and been really inspired. So I'm going to share first off, like what is CANTeam. So hopefully you guys get a feel for what it actually is. It's an after-school social dining initiative. So it's a bit unusual. I always call it the playground of possibility. That a lot of people are talking about breakfast clubs, a lot of people are talking about lunches and preschool meals. In the afternoon, after school, not many people are talking about that. And I think, well, why not? That after school, I've got three young children, picking them up, looking after them, feeding myself is all challenging. So I think there must be a better way to be feeding and looking after ourselves. So and I'm going to share like where this idea came from like a while back, but just want to say, and then it's about creating and turning and almost rebranding school after school into a community hub. And and as I've shared, I've been doing these kinds of projects and programs for about 20 years. I've set up a number of social action programs in schools around the country and a Global One program as well. But this is the idea that keeps coming back to me. And then fortunately, with the support of Big Change, I was able to pilot it and then then had to kind of follow an apprentice journey and then submit where we got to and then compete for more funding. And fortunately, we then became co-winners and then we're able to pilot across the country, which we'll share more about. But just to kind of give you a flavour of what it looks like on the ground, this was our very first CANTeam, where we ran it in Sunny Hill School in Lambeth, and we asked the children to transform their school canteen so that they would feel welcoming. The school thought 50 would come, we had 150 turn up. We asked parents to bring starters and desserts, and then we had a Ghanaian chef that I knew that cooked an amazing sort of main course to make sure everybody left with a good meal. And then it was a Black History Month themed event, and it was brilliant. We didn't use the school canteen caterer because they didn't want to be involved, so we brought in our own. Then we worked in Townley Grammar, and this school was the school that actually was involved in kind of designing the whole concept. So we asked them, what do you eat after school? Where do you go? If we created after school dining, would you come? And then they said yes, we are 100%. So we said, all right, let's do it. They planned it all. But in this case, again, we had a barrier that the school canteen didn't want to cater. So we brought in Made in Hackney, and we had vegan chefs cook a wonderful meal. And the feedback from parents was, well, we don't really eat vegan food, and I don't eat peppers, but today's peppers were the best I've ever tasted, and people ate it, and people realized that vegan isn't just tofu. So extraordinary feedback, and the young people, they designed it, they served it, they marketed it, and they ran it. Um, but those were like ad hoc, like one events. We then went and did multiple events at this school in Bedford Academy. And this was actually the first school to reach out to me when we put it online, and it was the catering manager at the school. So this is where something sort of landed as an exciting point for me, when actually it was the catering lead said, we want to bring this. And so we launched it in their school, ran 2 events. And then since then, they've just emailed me going, we're running another event and another event. And they've been doing it, and we've been very much supporting. So that's been really exciting to see. And they ran their 4th event last night with local primary schools coming into the school. And their school's getting the students dancing, singing, running, swapping of clothes and toys and stuff. So actually the Reaction Collective, I've been looking at their work and almost seeing how CANTeam, you know, could be bringing in some of this stuff alongside. But you know, we then sort of went on to kind of test, you know, could we get people to come weekly? And we ran CANTeam for 7 weeks in a row in 2 schools. Then we took a break for Ramadan, and then came back a year later, and then have run for 12 weeks in 1 school in 7 weeks, and then 5 more weeks in the same school. So 19 events in 2 schools, and had over 1,500 diners. So we've sort of now got to the point where we've kind of seen communities and families coming every week, and this becoming part of their week. So that's I suppose, the journey we've been going on. I'm going to go into sort of more details and some of the stories later, but almost just wanted to show you initially some sort of photo to see what it looked like, what it feels like, and sort of share to you that we've been working on and still developing principles along the way. But what we've said is that CANTeam should be accessible, available, affordable, and appealing. And we've taken those 4 A's from US research that says just educating people about good health or stopping McDonald's from launching a new store on a high street isn't going to get people to eat healthy. You've got to make good, accessible, available, appealing food available in school, in work, on the high street. And currently there isn't really any sort of great competitor to McDonald's. So that's where we're setting our sort of moonshot. And what we're trying to do in schools is transform food culture, school culture, by having parents invited in through the gate, especially in secondary schools. And that was also a big question. Is it primary? Is it secondary? We weren't sure, so we've done both and found it's worked brilliant in both, but in very different ways. And that we're developing the young people's skills and leadership as the core aspect. One school did say to me, do we have to involve the young people? Can't we just put on the food event? I was like, that's not the point. And where we come from, my background is that we're running leadership and social action programs with young people. So this program and this initiative, really what we're bringing to the table is that we're not experts in food, we're partnering with food partners. What we're about is enabling young people to come up with the solutions to the issues of our time, involve them. And if we do that, I think that will they create the magic at these events. And then the name started with sort of like can do team, nice play on canteen. But now we sort of suddenly realize that actually the C is community, the A is about the activities to bring people together, and then it's about having a nutritious meal together. And then the can do team are the young people that are running it in partnership with catering teams, the teachers, the families, and everybody that's involved. So we're sort of starting to more codify it, but actually the name has been relatively organic to this point. And then we suddenly realized, actually, what is it? It's in the name, which was good. I'm going to pause there, I think, and then I'm going to, hand back to Heather / Shenel.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, John. That was a really good explanation. There's definitely a couple of things I'd love to come back to there, like what the possibilities for how these events could evolve. Like you mentioned with toy swaps or clothing swaps or different, repair and different things. That all sounds brilliant. And the music and the dancing and the sort of creative arts that can be involved, and also maybe the differences that you saw between primary and secondary and what those are. That sounds really interesting. But let's go over to Shenel now, because Shenel's actually been involved in running these events and has now taken on a much bigger role as far as I understand it. So Shenel, can you explain sort of how you came into this and what's led you to take it so much further?
Yeah, thank you, Heather. So hi, everybody. My name's Shenel, and I am an ex-teacher and was in the charity sector after teaching, going into schools and teaching wellbeing programs, particularly thinking about mental health. And I spent a long time, preaching about, find something that you're passionate about, find something that, find a sense of belonging. And the sense when you find a sense of belonging, that's where you're really going to take off, and your whole sort of happiness levels really are affected by sense of belonging. And then I met John, Three Big Change. And I was like, oh my goodness, so what you're doing really is actually creating a sense of belonging in schools through action, rather than just doing the theory behind it. You're actually doing it. I really want to bring this CANTeam project to my children's school. I think it will be amazing. So as the chair of the PTA, I said to my children's infant school, let's bring CANTeam to the school. And one of the barriers that we came across was actually, I didn't even know this, and I don't even know if many parents did know at the time, but the food isn't cooked at school. It's actually cooked off-site and brought in, because their actual kitchen, which they do have, is not suitable for actually running the lunchtime. So we're like, okay, we don't even have a kitchen, right? Okay, so how are we going to do this? So what we did is we partnered with a junior school, and it's a junior school that feeds into the infant school, but lots of children don't choose it. So it's again like establishing a lovely relationship and bringing the two schools together. So we piloted the CANTeam in the junior school and invited in the infants, and lots of the parents got involved with supporting the event. And it was I just loved it so much. I then said to John, let's do more, let's bring me on. And yeah, so you can show you a picture. I think John's got some pictures of the one with the infant and feeder junior school event. And it was year fives that ran this event, and they were absolutely incredible with their enthusiasm and how they wanted to run it. And we had students standing up singing, and they put lots of activities out, and we had games. And then from there, I'm working with John now to scale it across the country. And I think one of this picture here is a really big thing that we've been working on, which is where we were involved in a co-design workshop with Professor Greta, where we were looking at, what does the food look like during the day? Food, the whole, look at the spectrum of food across the whole school day, before school, after school, and during school. And then we worked with the voice of year 9 pupils to think about what they wanted to do and what they felt about that. And then from their sort of their own views, the kind of things they said is that they really wanted to be able to try the school food without a financial commitment, because they really just didn't get the opportunity. They always ended up doing the safe options, choosing their safe options, one, because it was quicker, and two, because they just didn't want to spend the money on trying the main meals. So we worked, with that voice of the students, we went back to the same school and said, okay, would you like to do this? And so Chartwell's, the catering team, were instrumental in providing this 6-week pilot that we are just about to finish, actually, where it's been really amazing that the year 10 students have totally taken ownership over this and said, yeah, let's run this. And they put on bingo and quizzes, and the catering team have got them serving the food and got them involved. And we've had nutritionists come in and provide booklets, and they've had themes of, they've used like food as a conversation starter and workbooks from nutritionists that they're handing out and working with parents on. So it's just been such a wonderful experience to see these different schools totally taking it in different directions. Based on how the students, have been empowered to lead the project. Yeah.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Shenel. Just a quick question. Like, how are the meals funded? Like, who pays for them, and who's sort of funding these trials and things like that?
So for this particular one here, so the answer is it's different depending on the school. But in this particular one here, Chartwell's paid for and supported this project and paid for the food, so that so the students could get what they wanted, which was to be able to financially, no financial commitment to try the food. And parents have given the feedback that, actually, I didn't realize it's actually really, really tasty. And obviously young people are trying it as well with their parents. So it's just been this really eye-opening experience for the school and for the catering team.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
And I suppose just to say, when we first started this idea and launched it, most people, I went around and sort of interviewed most stakeholders in the food industry, like, third sector, private sector, and everyone said the school caterers will not be interested in this, and they don't have the time or capacity to cook after school. So that's a non-starter. Okay. But we've actually flipped on its head and now got a number of the biggest school caterers, providing the food and cooking it and giving resources and giving staff time and using their wider teams and chefs to come in and help with the events. So it's almost created a new precedent almost that they can be involved, and it is actually an interesting space for them to operate in.
Yeah, with this input from the kids and the parents.
Yeah.
So like opening up, lines of communication that just weren't there before.
No, or where they've tried to do it but haven't necessarily, because they've been trying to do it first off just for saying just come in for the food.
Yeah.
And coming in for the community, I think, is the bit where they're like, and having the young people actually shaping it. Those two ingredients, I think, are the magic of what then makes it a special event.
Yeah. That's brilliant. Shenel, I just wanted to come back to you as well to ask you as a parent and as somebody who's organised one of these events at your children's school. Like, how did it feel? What did it feel like to you to be at that event? What did the community take away from it?
It was really magical, because we did a little like circle at the end, and John said, "Can you say one word that you've taken from this?" And the words that people use was basically community. That's like, they felt like a sense of belonging. They said they felt like they were connected, and just every single word was just so beautiful. It's like, what we need more of, and they all want more. So yeah,
that's such a great exercise as well to do, isn't it? To get people to voice their opinion there and then, so that other people can see that they're thinking the same as them, and that it's been roundly appreciated. Because it's very easy to leave an event and just go and think to yourself, oh, that was great, but have no idea what anyone else really thinks about it and whether you would do it again. But now you've got the permission to continue to do those things then, haven't you? Oh, that's lovely. Jonathan, I know you've got some feedback from the students who have actually run some of these events as well, and it'd be really great. Unfortunately, we couldn't have a student on the call today because presumably we can't take them out of lesson time. But yeah, it'd be lovely to hear from the students, like how they feel about it. So I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, we almost got the permission, but it's last day of term, which then caused a challenge. But a number of the students have shared their story with us. So hopefully technology will be on our side, and yeah, this is going to work. So if I can get a thumbs up if sound is coming through when I press play.
I chose to get involved with CANTeam because of the community. CANTeam brings community to schools, and it just brings a sense of belonging. I also like to volunteer, and not only does it help myself, it will help someone will appreciate it, and that's what CANTeam is all about.
I chose to get involved because I thought it's like a very good experience to gain new skills, talking to different people, and it's nice to share a bond and a relationship with different people, especially the new people that we met today from different backgrounds and like care homes. It's sweet.
Well, at the time of the first CANTeam event, when it was going to happen, I didn't really have much experience in hospitality, and I mean, I'd never had a job before either, so I didn't really know how customer service worked in terms of professionally. So I thought this was a great opportunity to try that out, meet new people, and also meet the community around me.
I'd say the most valuable skill is good communication. Obviously, you have to be good at, telling the team, I need to do this, but in a polite way, make sure everything runs smoothly. So just learning how to, communicate with everyone, making sure everyone's good, if they need any help is, good, prepares you for life as well, in your job. So it was really a good skill to have from CANTeam.
I think teamwork was the most valuable skill that I've learned today, and being together as one. And being together as one, you'll fly smoothly.
One of the most valuable skills I've developed here is networking with new individuals who I've never seen before, establishing that through a meal, having that family talk, having that talk with someone across the table. You get to establish this connection and build new relationships, and hope to see them the next day.
Sorry. Oh, sorry.
Next time they come back.
And I think it's always best to learn how to think on your feet, and especially because I work at the pre-love table, sometimes it's more busy, sometimes it's less busy, and I think at the times where it is less busy, I think it's best for me to always step back and see who else needs help around me, because I think the event only works so well when everyone's pulling together as a team.
At the end of the CANTeam, that's when I felt really successful. Me and the rest of my classmates, we went outside and we were just playing basketball because we were just happy with the success. That was the most memorable moment, my first CANTeam, yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. That was just so heartwarming, wasn't it? Tamsin, I wanted to come to you because you actually went to one of these meals last week, didn't you?
I did.
So I'd love to get your perspective. What was it like? Were the students serving the meal, and how did it all work from a customer point of view, I suppose?
Yeah, well, I went to an event that April, who's listening in the kitchen, I think at the moment she is I don't know, is she the catering lead, Jonathan, at the academy? She's just an incredible event. So this was slightly different, I think, to the normal setup, but as we're hearing, I don't think there is a one way of doing this. So I think this event was partnering with Bite Back, which is another charity, so the kids there had been, the year 10 kids cooked the meals. So there were a group of year 10, I think it was predominantly girls, but they're GCSE food technology students. And they had created the menu, and they had cooked the meals with April. And then we had a group of year 7 students who were kind of the hosts for the evening. So we were split into tables, and we had waitresses and waiters assigned to our tables. So there was, I didn't lift a finger, which was amazing. And they were also really confident, just to see, I have a child who's of a similar age, and just to see the confidence that these kids had to come up to a table of strangers, ask for their drinks orders, go and make their drinks and bring them back. I was sat with a couple an elderly couple who'd come from the community, to be able just to sit and talk to them. And I asked Mary, who we were sat with, what would you normally be doing on a Friday night? And she said, well, I'd normally be doing my click and collect Sainsbury's order and watching I think it was Great British Chefs or Great British Menu, but she said, but I'll still get home in time for that, so that's okay. And it was just lovely to see the community come together, and get to meet different people. There was a band, the school band played, who were I think were quite like metal focused. Like there was a lot of loud drums, and I felt quite old. But it was awesome. It was a really nice event, and I think it really made me. I'd talked to Jonathan about CANTeam before I went, and so I thought I knew what I was expecting, but I think what really came across is the importance of like bringing people together over food. It's just such a good way to, like, you know, the idea for some people of going and meeting strangers in a place where they live is quite intimidating, but you put food into the mix, everybody's got something in common, right? They're all sat there, they can talk about their dinner if they want to, if they don't know what else to talk about. But yeah, it was beautiful. And Jonathan's kind of, we're going to have more canteens than McDonald's. Like, I really believe like that it's a possibility if we, you know, if we want it enough and we all talk about it enough. It's just, yeah, it's brilliant. And I was really grateful to be invited. So I would suggest anybody who lives near a school, Jonathan, I'm guessing people can kind of like see the events on the website or on social media. But if like, I guess anybody can come to a CANTeam event. Is that right?
Yeah, if they register with us in advance, and then and then we probably are going to start putting together sort of like join the guest list here, and then we can then update people with like future events, and then people sign up. But yeah, it has been great to have different people being able to come in and experience and see it, because actually just coming and seeing it is what helps people understand it.
Yeah, definitely. I realized I made a huge faux pas earlier in saying customers. I should have said participants.
I was definitely
so yeah, participants. On that basis, I really wanted to come back to you again, John, to talk about like where did this idea come from? Like, what was the aha moment for you? Because this sort of community dining does have a history, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I'll hand over to you because I don't want to spoil it for everyone, and you'll tell it much, much better than I will. So yeah, let us know sort of where did it come from, and how are you figuring it out?
Yeah, no, it's funny because I actually thought I knew where it came from, and then sort of upon reflection sort of realized it came much earlier. So there's been almost like a planting of seeds throughout my life that probably led to kind of the idea sort of really like, why do I think that this idea sort of goes for it? And I haven't really properly shared it. So even like, I think like a couple of people were saying fully like until last week, is that bringing it up. So I just thought I'd show maybe like a few pictures so you can kind of see where the idea sort of came from. So I suppose I'm going to jump to the picture on the right, because that in my mind is like the first sort of version of what CANTeam has become. And that was where it was unfortunate we were brought in to do a response to the Grenfell Tower tragedy. And I created a program called the West London Summer Program. And I tried to make it a program that wasn't called like Grenfell. It was a summer program that should exist everywhere. And we in it, I was given permission to kind of put together the program that I thought would make a difference to the community. So we did community dining in the school playground. And when parents and families came up to me, they were like, well, you know, this is extraordinary. And I was like, well, why is it extraordinary? This was a really simple event to put on. We put on a barbecue, put out some tables, and the families came and the football clubs came and helped. And then my takeaway was almost like schools, after school, weekends, holidays, some amazing facilities which are typically closed, or there's a few things happening in them, but they're so underutilized. And then I suppose over just the last few years of the cost of living crisis, and just seeing how almost the village is, people don't meet or speak to people that they don't know. They're in their own community, they're in their WhatsApp groups with their own family, or they comment on social media, and that's how they connect with others, but they don't really mix. So that sort of led me to think, right, really, community dining in schools could be the answer. But then I was sort of thinking, well, no, the idea didn't come from that. Why did I do social dining back then? And I suppose the big reflection for me was I read this book, Shantaram, which I don't know if anybody in the group has read, but there is a point in the book where the author sort of has this reflection to say in Eastern cultures, people eat on the streets eat together, but in Western cultures, we've almost made eating together a capitalist concept, when actually it should be cheaper and easier to eat together, but for some reason it's not. So there's something to unpick there, to almost go, how do we make it viable for everybody? And then I sort of look back like deeper, like in I suppose personally, back at school, I did this thing on Thursdays where we visited local elder care homes, and it was made cool to care in my school. Service was alongside sport, and the St Vincent de Paul Society had a president. And I think for the age of 11, going out and visiting this lady and having a cup of tea with her every Thursday is, for me, what's, I suppose, planted that seed, that actually having that intergenerational connections and community and speaking to people you don't know is massively impactful, both for young people and for older adults as well. So I suppose that's almost like where now I almost look back and go, probably it's from that moment where a lady said to me, "Can you make me a cup of tea, dear?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, of course I can." Went to the kitchen, said to my mate, "Do you know how to make tea?" And he said, "No." And then we learned how to make tea, and then served a not very good tea. And then this idea has been percolating back in my mind since, I suppose, 2017. I said about a year and a half ago to my sort of business coach, "I'm doing all this work, I'm too busy to work on this idea, but this is this crazy idea I have." And she said, "Think about it on Fridays, move it forward on Fridays." So that just sort of was the thing for me that meant that I started writing it down, started talking to people about it, typically on Fridays. So that's why I love the Citizen Friday movement. And I always post about Feel Good Friday, and it comes from that. And then when Big Change said, "Have you got an idea that could transform education that you haven't started?" I was like, right, I do have an idea. So this is now going to be the moment. I write it down and I press submit. I spent 3 nights, 3 hours a night, 9 hours, submitted the idea, 5 minutes to midnight, and then got an email saying you're a finalist. And then I was like, oh God, I've got to actually do this now. And so that's where the idea and how I was catalyzed into action when by submitting it to Big Change. And and then I realized, and I didn't know this, but what I'm talking about isn't new. There's a whole history, and Carly, who's on this call, and Dr. Marsha, they're working on drawing up the history of public canteens. So in World War II, the government and Churchill said we need to feed the nation to fight the war, and they were saying women are working and supply chains aren't working and energy costs a lot. There's quite a few things that are similar to today. The best thing to do is to have communal dining, but Churchill said, don't call it communal dining, we're not communists, call it a British restaurant. So they served 600,000 meals a day in their hype. And now there's a number of organizations and partners that are talking about, is it time to bring back communal dining? It might not be the norm, but could it be, and should it be?
Yes, would be my answer. Definitely. That's brilliant. And where do you see this going? Like, what's the future for CANTeam? You alluded to sort of some work that you're doing with a couple of other people on the call. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think it's basically through partnership that we're doing it. So we're looking at different models, like could we create kind of like a social franchise model, almost I suppose taking the best of like McDonald's and almost going, there might be some hubs that we run and then others that we almost give the social franchise to and partner with. And we've been going out to a whole collection of catering organizations, multi-academy trusts, food charities, and partnering with them. And we've also are working on more of a system change piece, talking about and so Marsha and Carly, who are on this call, we had our second sort of advisory group meeting this week, and we're talking about how do we create a canteen culture. And we're almost in stealth mode now, but very soon we'll be sharing how to get involved in that. And so I'm sort of supporting that and sharing our learning. But almost think that my hope is almost that we will do what we do, but almost spark others to almost see the possibilities as well. So I don't see that we're going to be the whole piece in this. Our particular focus is going to be schools and young people running these sort of social canteens. But we almost see by us even doing this and being people seeing it, experience it, and then might spark others to kind of create their own sort of versions of it as well. And I suppose the other thing we're looking at is microfinance. So we ran a pilot with Bike Back where we funded 8 schools to launch. So we've micromanaged quite a lot of our pilots to date, and these ones we almost said, you decide who to invite, you decide how many events, you decide these things, but these are the principles you need to abide by. And April was on the call here, you know, she got the students, the year 10s, cooking in the kitchen. I actually thought when I turned up they were the school catering staff. They looked so professional in there. I was like, and then I went, oh no, she did tell me it was the students. I was like, how old are you? And they're like 14. I was like, wow. And it was probably the best restaurant meal I've had in a while, and the best service from the year 7s. So for me, actually seeing this sort of where we can give some funding to schools and almost be an umbrella to kind of distribute that, I think that makes me almost believe again there's more possibility that almost we can now go out to hundreds of schools, raise finance and support them and catalyze them, and then seeing Bedford almost going, once they've done a few events, they're now just doing it themselves without our support, and they've also found local partners to fund their own events and their food. And then similarly, like we've been partnering with Impact Food Group and other academy chains who are then looking at, could we replicate it? They're quite keen to kind of do it in all 9 of their schools. So that was the conversation we were having this week. So yeah, I think that's the kind of the future.
Amazing. That sounds incredible. And are there one or a couple of things that you could put your finger on? Like, what have been the biggest learnings from doing this that you'll take forward?
That's a big question.
Sorry, I put you on the spot there, didn't I?
You know, I think for me, sometimes it's about sharing your dream. So a lot of people sort of keep it to themselves. And actually, I think just by actually just voicing it and sharing it and putting it out there, and then people kind of go, oh, actually, you should really do that, has then been, because it you know, it is quite challenging to create something like this. And a lot of people just we were supportive, but also a lot of people told me, like one of my first calls, they're like, well, there's obviously like the 10 challenges with that. And they had it on a PowerPoint where they said, we've tried to do something like that. Here is the 10 reasons why this won't work. It's like, okay, well, let's see. And then they came back to me later and said, oh yeah, we tried it, couldn't do it, and then you guys have done it. So so it sort of shows you that sometimes just keeping believing and just keeping going. Truth's in the pudding. I think sometimes you just got to go and do it in order to then see if it works as well.
I feel like you've breezed through a lot of the challenges in terms of like, for example, getting catering companies on board and things like that. I'm sure it hasn't been that easy.
Yeah, I mean,
you know,
I
can you
suppose it's
speak
almost
to that?
ignorance, maybe, in a way, like, because we're not from the food world, so we've kind of come into it from an external point of view. Like we've run social action projects and programs and leadership programs. That's our background and our experience. I'm entirely new and almost was reading, you know, ultra processed people in the books and trying to understand all of these things and following different people on LinkedIn, but just almost by being almost moving into a different sector that I didn't understand almost meant that we could almost come at it from a different direction. And then yeah, one of the sort of top policy experts then sort of said to me, I ran a pilot on after school food in Scotland, and John, you're onto something here, you've got to go for it. And then she made a bunch of really good connections for me. But it was interesting actually then, you know, some different people almost really understood the concept and then sort of made the connections that helped us. And it's definitely been through people and partnerships, and that's been what's helped us sort of get to this point.
Brilliant. I like that, because that's what the Citizen Collective is all about, people and partnerships, for sure. We're going to go to some breakout rooms now, and the wonderful thing is we've got so many people in the room who have been part of CANTeam or are part of its future in some way or another. So we're going to. Oh well, thank you so much. I hope you had really good conversations in your breakout rooms. We'd love to hear from you, and for John and maybe Shenel, if they're willing to answer any questions that you might have, and certainly to hear any observations that you had as well. So hopefully you can remember which rooms you were in. I'm just going to go in order. There were 4 breakout rooms. So room 1, is there anybody that would like to be the spokesperson and perhaps share a little bit about what you were talking about in that room?
I was in room 1. Does anyone else from my room wanna?
You go, Shenel. You go.
And so we all introduced ourselves in the room, and people coming from different, some from a parent's side, thinking about how to bring it to their school, and some of the question that I was asked was about like how just do all catering companies, for example, fund the food, and no, that so some of them don't is the answer, and so we've had to we've been using the Big Change Fund to put these pilots together. We've tried for example, thinking about how who do you need to fund, for example, to bring in. So, for example, like do we need to paying for the catering staff, but also maybe a teacher on the ground, things like that. We're just testing the different methods of how that works best to take it forward. Yeah.
Brilliant, thanks very much. Did anyone else have a question from that room? I suppose, Shenel, you're probably able to answer lots of them. Room 2, is there anyone from room 2 who'd like to share any of their thoughts or a bit of the conversation from their room?
Just put your hand up if you want to, because then we can see you, because there's so many of you, we can't see you all.
I'm happy to.
Dan.
So I'm Dan from Bite Back, and we had a really good discussion about like just using these spaces and how important it is that these school buildings sit in the heart of the community anyway. As John said, they're not doing much, and they actually are places that people feel safe in, and that parents and families and people know. And my reflection to the group was that like our young people who were on the Bite Back program have taken this to like a duck to water. Really, they've loved it. It was obviously something that I think some of the schools had tried before, and it's just that CANTeam structure has just allowed them to kind of thrive and do it. And a question that was asked in the group, and I sort of knew the answer, but it'd be great to get your perspectives, was just around like how people, how it's publicized, who's reaching out to local communities, etc., parents, and so it'd be great to get some thoughts on that.
John, can I hand over to you for that one?
Yeah, I mean, first phase of this, we did like a survey of schools all over the country and got like hundreds and hundreds of schools and over 1,500 young people, parents and teachers did a survey, and then had a few sort of proactive schools who sort of asked if they could pilot. So we've almost lent into, we'll do a primary, and then Bedford Academy catering manager reached out. So we almost wanted to get some complimentary, so almost just lent into these sort of where we could see almost complimentary versions that we could trial. And then in terms of kind of like the schools and the communities and the invites, we are often sort of helping put together almost the invite and providing templates like for posters and invitations and things. So we almost are sort of prototyping it a bit more now and providing those resources, but also saying that people have flexibility to be creative. And then they send those invites out and they choose who they invite. We have on some, like I reached out to a big care home that company that has like hundreds of care homes, and that went straight in at chief operating officer level on LinkedIn and said, look, can you invite these 2 care homes which are near this school? And they invite both care homes, and it went straight from CEO to a local manager to the 2 care homes, and those 2 care homes turned up in December. And then those 2 care homes, again, we invited them a few weeks ago, sent them one email, and they went, yep, we're definitely back. And I was sitting next to one of the carers last Wednesday night at dinner, and she was just like, we're so pleased to get the invite out again. This is so extraordinary for our residents. And then the residents so enjoyed coming back again, and they felt so much more comfortable the second time, such that they were up dancing, and then put me to shame. But fortunately, Shenel can dance. So and we literally in this dining hall was you with sixth formers dancing with, and yeah, it was quite a party by the end.
That sounds incredible, Jonathan. I love it. I've got this wonderful image in my mind now.
There's a video.
I wanted just to follow up actually, because if people are asking how could I hold an event in my local school in the next month or so, what would I need? Do you provide, would they be able to tap into funding? What do they get from you? Do they get tips on how to run these events? Is it more handheld than that? If I'm a parent right now, what do I need to do?
Yeah, well, I suppose Shenel was a parent on LinkedIn, reached out to me, and then we had the conversation, and that started a journey. So I must say, look, actually do go on to, I'll put the website there, go on to CANTeam.org, drop us an email, connect on LinkedIn, send us a message. There is a place there where schools can register interest. We will have ad hoc conversations and see what we can do, but also we are sort of working on a bigger plan for next academic year, where we almost by term release almost like join this cohort. So I think it's going to move to a bit more of a coordinated cohort track, and that's like what we've done with Bike Back, where we said, register by this point, then this training will be on this day, and then you guys run your CANTeams within this thing, and then having a bit more of a menu of going, do you want to do it daily, maybe weekly, monthly, termly, and go from there. But we're also going to be applying, I suppose, for more match funding, which will enable us to respond to more. So there is also, we do have that challenge of, as everyone does in the social sector, getting but we will do little pilots as we can, and then bigger ones as we get the support that we need to do that.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you very much. I'm conscious that there were a couple more breakout rooms, so I would just want to open it up to any other questions that anybody might have. Do put your hand up and we can come to you. Anybody else? If not, then what I might do is wrap things up there by saying a huge thank you to John, Shenel, and all of their partners who have joined us today as well. It's been absolutely wonderful to hear about this initiative. It really feels like something that we all need at the moment. As our lives become more digital, as we somehow disconnect from our communities, because of our busy work lives and so on and so forth. It's so great to hear that there are initiatives that are bringing communities back together, and the benefit, I mean, it just sounds so joyful and so needed as well. So thank you very much, and wish you all the best with what comes next, and we'll be following with interest and hopefully hooking up with you, maybe to help, like from a reaction point of view, maybe helping to bring other elements to the CANTeam events. I would echo what you said. If anybody wants to get involved, get in touch with John. But otherwise, have a wonderful Citizen Friday. And this has been recorded. It will be on the YouTube channel. We'll send the link to you, and then you can share it with anybody who you think needs to watch it. So, please share, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming, and thank you for the invite to be here. Really have enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.